He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist thought bubble. He is in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood. And, and I think also, he famously, there's some videos of him in blackface, and those came out, and he had to apologize for them. And I think he took that hit and really doubled down the other direction.
Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. I do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing on the sidewalk. Oh, sir, may I bring you in? He'd bring me in every time. The whole show is talking bad about Trump.
He called us doofuses when we had you on.
He's a group of doofuses in flat-brimmed hats.
Guess what? We
Ask him how many.
What he did.
Ask him. Yeah, you do bigger. Yeah, you do. He shows down.
Jimmy Kimmel just got slammed with a wild $500 million lawsuit from President Trump, and Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly are enjoying every second of it. Rogan tears into Kimmel like a comic bombing on stage, while Kelly slices through his Hollywood ego with sharp precision. From arrogant rants to courtroom drama, this isn't just a roast, it's a full public unraveling. Get ready. Kimmel's downfall just turned into late night's harshest spectacle yet.
I mean, I struggle to even mention that guy's name. He's such an absolute, I can't stand him. But anyway, it's just my thought bubble out loud. We took a look at some of their reactions to the news of Trump's win. Look at this.
Hey there. How are you doing? If you watch the show regularly, I'm guessing you're not doing great. Yeah, me neither.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate. It was a terrible night for poor people, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO.
You know how much it costs to produce Jimmy Kimmel's show? I guarantee you it's tens and tens of millions. It could be as much as 100 million. I have no idea. You know how much Tucker's video cost? Nothing. You know how much Jimmy Kimmel, how many people he gets tuning in on an average night? Just last week, his average was, in the overall, meaning all viewers, 1.5 million. In the key demo, 236,000. Tucker would have been embarrassed to pull that on any night he was on the Fox News.
Joe Rogan couldn't believe what he was watching. President Trump, still serving as commander-in-chief, had just hit Jimmy Kimmel with a $500 million lawsuit. Not a small warning, not some stiff lawyer letter packed with empty legal words, but a straight $500 million punch. And Joe was already laughing before he even finished reading the headline.
There's not a chance in hell that this is funny or going to work. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes with no audience, Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter. So a bunch of really good joke writers wrote them some stuff, and then they're playing to the audience, and the audience is like laughing, so they get this feedback, and they know how to do that. They stand there, and there's applause signs, and then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to clap. They're like, okay, explain to the people. Okay, when Jimmy comes out, I want a big round of applause. Let's practice this right.
He leaned back, eyes wide, laughing like he had just witnessed something unreal. Out of all the headlines floating around, this one felt like pure comedy gold. Jimmy Kimmel, the man who built his career on smug teleprompter jokes, had finally pushed the wrong buttons. And now the bear he provoked wasn't just awake. It came charging with lawyers and the full weight of the system. Joe jumped into the drama like a kid opening a surprise sequel to his favorite game.
Do you know who's going to be hosting the Academy Awards this year? Jimmy Kimmel. Do you know who's worn blackface repeatedly and spoken inner city sort of urban accent saying she needs to darn those socks? Jimmy Kimmel as Oprah, as a fat-suited, black-faced, darning socks Oprah. Now, if you are of the left, that's fine. If you are of the right and happen to just say, hey, people used to wear blackface and nobody freaked out about it, you get fired.
He started by saying Jimmy Kimmel getting hit with a $500 million lawsuit was like watching a house cat challenge a freight train. There's brave, and then there's whatever wild dream Kimmel was living in when he thought the President of the United States would ignore nightly waves of mockery. As Joe explained, Kimmel clearly mistook monologues for protection. It was like hiding behind a desk made him think he was beyond the reach of the law.
Horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities, and it wasn't a big deal. Absolutely ate up the performance by Hollywood darling Mr. Kimmel, whose blackface costumes included his oft-repeated bit as basketball star Karl Malone.
Joe went straight at the nerve behind Kimmel's smug routine. Watching Jimmy tell political jokes, he said, is like watching a chihuahua bark commands at a SWAT team. It's noisy, it's constant, but no one truly takes it seriously. And now that barking comes with a real price. Then Joe turned to Kimmel's comedy style and began pulling it apart. It's the kind of material that makes a room of nervous interns laugh just enough to keep their positions. It isn't sharp, it isn't daring. It's like warm milk, calm, forgettable, and a slow fade for real comedy.
Numbers were 3 times what Jimmy Kimmel gets. And Tucker's little basement video that he did from clearly like his cabin that he broadcast out of Maine in literally has 21 million views. Okay? 21 million views. Whereas, as I point out, on ABC, a massive network that comes into your home for free, that you have to make no effort to find, at best, Jimmy Kimmel can get 1.5 million. He needs to have a little self-perspective before going out there and hurling these insults because he looks a little...
Rogan leaned forward and said the real joke wasn't Jimmy's show. It was the idea that Kimmel still believed he was the cool kid in the cafeteria. He said Jimmy was more like a network puppet with a Hollywood laugh track. According to Joe, the rebellion ship sailed 10 years ago, and now Kimmel looked like someone clapping at power, like a substitute teacher with a whistle. Jimmy going after Trump every night, Joe said, was like tossing a pebble at a freight train and bragging about the scratch. Sure, it gets attention, but now the train is suing for the price of a private island. Joe laughed at the thought of Jimmy calling his lawyers while quickly deleting old YouTube clips like a kid wiping insults off a chalkboard before the principal walks in. Joe added that this lawsuit wasn't just about money. He said it was psychological pressure. Trump didn't only want to win in court, he wanted to take over Jimmy's thoughts. He pictured Kimmel sweating through lunch, whispering about defamation laws, and waking up nervous about court dates. Then Joe pointed out the irony. The man who built a career mocking celebrities was now upset because one of them refused to laugh. It was like a school bully complaining when someone finally pushed back. Except this time, the opponent was Trump, with 500 million reasons to make things difficult. Joe also said Kimmel's Trump jokes weren't very clever. They felt shallow, like posts from a bitter social media account with barely any followers. Somehow, Jimmy convinced himself he was a comedy revolutionary. Joe added that he wasn't Jon Stewart, and even Stewart might have told him to rewrite the script years ago.
Problem with that kind of stuff is it continues to go in the same direction where more and more things become forbidden and toxic, to the point where, you know, the Elon Musk joking around about my pronouns are prosecute Fauci. Jimmy Kimmel made a tweet back to him. He said, your pronouns are ass and hole, which is pretty funny. But then... Did he really? Yes. And so then I read that, and there was people saying, please don't joke about pronouns. It's transphobic to joke about pronouns. So they were chiding him.
As Joe wrapped up, he joked that this lawsuit might be the most excitement Jimmy Kimmel has seen live in years. At least now, he said, people have a reason to search his name that doesn't involve reruns or awkward interviews promoting movie flops and superhero capes. While Joe laughed at the situation, across town, Megyn Kelly prepared her response with calm focus instead of jokes. She entered the discussion steady, amused, and confident, like someone who had seen the story before. To Megyn, the Kimmel and Trump lawsuit wasn't shocking drama. It felt like expected theater. She suggested the court move finally crossed a line, and the president responded strongly. Megyn said Kimmel often confused Hollywood applause with real influence. He seemed to believe mocking Trump in front of a cheering audience made him a symbol of resistance. In her view, he was mostly reading prepared lines filled with safe sarcasm. She added that the biggest risk in his comedy was that viewers might lose interest before the second joke even arrived.
How weak and pathetic is a guy like that? The Tonight Show, which is dying. They're all dying. Where's Johnny Carson? Bring back Johnny. It made you appreciate, right, Uncle Sam? It made you appreciate the greatness of Johnny Carson. I go on a show, and he goes, is that your real hair? I said, yeah. He said, do you mind if I mess it up? So he grabs it, and he starts really going crazy, right? And everybody laughed, and it was a big thing, and it was a big hit. It was all over the place, and he got great ratings and all. And 6 months later, he went out because he was under pressure to apologize because he humanized.
She analyzed Jimmy calmly, like a careful surgeon. Megyn said he might have been funny once, perhaps during his early television days with bold and questionable skits. But that version of him seemed gone. What remains, she explained, is a polished and corporate-approved host who often sounds more desperate than daring. She compared him to a former high school rebel who became a hall monitor, and now wonders why people don't take him seriously. Then she focused on the bigger issue. Jimmy mocked Trump daily while acting untouchable. Megyn said it's one thing to criticize, but it's another to forget that the person being criticized is also the president with fast-moving lawyers. She added that mocking Trump during his presidency didn't seem especially brave. It looked safe and overly confident. She described the lawsuit as ironic payback. A man who made a living laughing at others was now facing serious legal trouble for assuming nothing would happen. She argued it wasn't about free speech, but about careless attacks. When those attacks bring consequences, she said, claiming victimhood doesn't fit, especially if your career relies on strong reactions for ratings. Megyn pictured Kimmel returning to his writer's room like it was a shelter, with staff quickly rewriting monologues to avoid more legal trouble. It reminded her of a magician trying to perform tricks after the props were already examined as evidence.
Last night was the 96th Academy Awards show, and while you might have missed it, there was one clear winner. No, not Oppenheimer. It was sanctimonious leftists for their lead role in pretending they are better than you. Several people shared in this achievement. Winner number one, Jimmy Kimmel. For the fourth time, Kimmel hosted the Oscars before an adoring crowd of Hollywood stars who laughed and curried favor with the man who wore blackface so many times.
Megyn continued. She said the lawsuit shattered the idea that late-night hosts live in a protected comedy bubble. Kimmel had relied on anti-Trump material for years, presenting himself as bold while forgetting a simple rule. If you work in a glass studio, be careful about throwing stones at powerful figures. She then widened the focus to Hollywood. Jimmy, she explained, isn't just a host with a microphone. He's part of a media system that often treats criticism as one-sided. When Trump responds, it becomes a crisis. But when Jimmy criticizes nightly, it's labeled harmless humor. She pointed out this double standard with clear frustration. Then she added, almost playfully, that the lawsuit might actually help Kimmel. At least now, more people were paying attention. She joked that his ratings might benefit from the sudden drama. Megyn imagined Kimmel reading the lawsuit in dramatic silence as the seriousness finally settled in. This wasn't a sketch or scripted moment. It was real, and the amount was real too, $500 million. She ended with a sharp remark that Jimmy might need to sell merchandise, emotional speeches, or celebrity connections to prepare for what could come next.
Nobody's going to care anymore. It's like you're seeing it take place with late night television. Nobody gives a fuck about it anymore.
I know.
And it's slowly, you have a bad business model and you're not adapting.
Yeah, the creativity's gone for late night comedy.
Finally, Megyn said what many people were thinking. This situation wasn't about silencing Jimmy Kimmel. It was about making a point. Trump, she suggested, wanted to show that public criticism from celebrities could carry consequences. If someone aims at the king, she said, they should aim carefully. In her view, Jimmy clearly missed. As everything settled, Joe and Megyn stood on different platforms but shared similar disbelief and amusement. The Kimmel and Trump dispute wasn't only a legal fight. It felt like a roast that had turned serious. For Jimmy, the jokes were no longer one-sided. Joe laughed again, shaking his head like someone who had just seen an unexpected accident unfold. He said the strangest twist was that Jimmy finally gained Trump's attention, just not the viral attention he usually chased. Instead, it arrived in the form of thick legal papers and a number so huge it sounded almost unreal.
It's him or a writer, can't you tell?
Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah.
No, it's him, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
good. That's a good one.
He's a comic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, he used to host The Man Show. I mean, he's done some pretty outrageous back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, for hee-hees and haw-haws.
No, that's a good joke on top of a good joke.
Yeah, it's a good joke.
Joe didn't soften his words. He said Kimmel poked the bear but forgot this bear owns skyscrapers, commands an army of lawyers, and operates on a presidential level of confidence. Trump didn't respond with a simple tweet. He moved forward forcefully, like a wrecking ball aimed at the target. Now Jimmy is left holding a microphone without strong punchlines, surrounded by legal warnings. Joe joked that the next time Kimmel tells a Trump joke, a line of attorneys might be sitting in the front row, turning it into something like Defamation, the musical. Then Joe shifted into a more thoughtful tone. He said the situation shows that being loud is not the same as being brave. Having a camera does not make someone immune to consequences. Kimmel may have believed he was battling dragons. Instead, Joe said he was tossing small insults at a tank, and now that tank feels parked in his driveway, holding a lawsuit and wearing a confident smile.
We'll tell you, he's not the worst. The Daily Show has the worst ratings. They only have 366,000 people watching that show. During the Jon Stewart years, it was over 2 million. Now it's down to 300,000. Seth Meyers, absolutely dreadful. He doesn't even have 1,778,000. I mean, for network television, this is, you don't have to pay for it. It's there when you turn on your TV. You plug it in. That's a dreadful number. Greg Gutfeld on cable, which you do have to pay for, it has more than double the numbers of Seth Meyers. Jimmy Kimmel, 1.5 million averaging, also equally horrible. And then there's The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, who back when I was there, 2017-18, he was averaging 2.3 million a night. Now he's down to 1.3 million, Jesse. And he cannot afford the "you are toxic" controversy because he's also pulling in reportedly over $15 million a year. So you got all that money for 1.5 million in audience, which is a nothing. I mean, the middle of the day on Fox News gets that, or at least used to before they took her.
Meanwhile, Megyn spoke up again, lightly laughing at the image of Kimmel spending his weekend anxiously searching legal questions online. She imagined him wondering how many jokes could cross the line into defamation. The man who once presented himself as a comedy rebel, she said, may soon learn what real pushback looks like. There are no trending hashtags or cheering celebrities this time, just serious legal action that does not care about applause or awards. She suggested Kimmel might try to turn the situation into another television segment or seek sympathy from viewers. But in her opinion, he simply grew too comfortable. He treated mocking Trump as if it carried no risk. Now the pressure feels real, the consequences are serious, and Jimmy appears to be reacting quickly to keep up. As the discussion continued, Joe and Megyn shared rare agreement. Kimmel was no longer the court jester making safe jokes from a distance. He stepped into the arena, and now the challenge in front of him looks far more serious.